He remained motionless and pensive, his eyes fixed on the gloomy aperture that was open at his feet. Now that I expect nothing, now that I no longer entertain the slightest hopes, the end of this adventure becomes simply a matter of curiosity. And he remained again motionless and thoughtful. Yes, this is an adventure worthy of a place in the varied career of that royal bandit. This fabulous event formed but a link in a long chain of marvels. Yes, Borgia has been here, a torch in one hand, a sword in the other, and within 20 paces, at the foot of this rock, perhaps 2 guards kept watch on land and sea, while their master descended, as I am about to descend, dispelling the darkness before his awe-inspiring progress. But what was the fate of the guards who thus possessed his secret? Asked Dante to himself. The fate, replied he, smiling, of those who buried Alaric and were interred with the corpse. Yet he had come, thought Dante. He would have found the treasure, and Borgia, he who compared Italy to an artichoke, which he could devour leaf by leaf, knew too well the value of time to waste in replacing this rock. I will go down. Then he descended, a smile on his lips, and murmuring that last word of human philosophy. Perhaps. But instead of the darkness and the thick and mephitic atmosphere he had expected to find, Dante saw a dim and bluish light, which, as well as the air, entered, not merely by the aperture he had just formed, but by the interstices and the crevices of the rock which were visible from without, and through which he could distinguish the blue sky and the wavering branches of the evergreen oaks, and the tendrils of the creepers that grew from the rocks. After having stood a few minutes in the cavern, the atmosphere of which was rather warm than damp, Dante's eye, habituated as it was to darkness, could pierce even to the remotest angles of the cavern, which was of granite that sparkled like diamonds. Alas, said Edmond, smiling, these are the treasures the cardinal has left, and the good abbé, seeing in a dream these glittering walls, has indulged in fallacious hopes. To the end, Dante does not want to believe. He keeps justifying one thing after another, to just not let him get his hopes up. Dante, buddy, I think you got to go see a therapist about that. You can dream a little, you can hope a little, you can dance, feel joy, eat, pray, love a little. Entering upon this cavern, and he's now saying, oh, yes. Well, actually, let me start a little bit before that. Yesterday's passage was very much about him hesitating and looking at the descending steps and going, yeah, you know what? Caesar Borgia's been here. And then he's like, but you know what? Caesar Borgia wouldn't have put this rock back after he stole everything. Plus, what would have happened to those 2 guards that kept watch that I invented myself in this scenario? And he's like, yeah, you know what? That's not exactly logical. So it is quite possible that Borgia wasn't here. Maybe the treasure is down there. In fact, he says the word perhaps the treasure lie down below. But once Dante's down there, then he's like, yes. Okay, I see. I get it. Yeah, there is no treasure. It's all a delusion because the granite walls are sparkling a little bit. And Faria confused that with actual treasure that lay inside. So right up to the end here, Dante is refusing to allow himself to be part of this. But I guess he does kind of push through a sort of disillusionment, which, I guess isn't going to come until he... Disillusionment's not the right word. I misspoke there, folks. A sort of disappointment, maybe, a lack of belief. He pushes through that and goes, okay, I'm going to accept that there's nothing here. And now he's just like, I'm gonna, this is an adventure. Hey, it's the journey we go along, not the destination. It's the friends we make along the way. And I'm making friends with adventure right now. Adventure is my friend. That's what I'm doing this for. It's a certain curiosity to see it through to the end, regardless of the outcome. That's, I think, kind of where Dante is at the moment. He's detaching from his hopes, from the he's intellectualizing it. I should know something about that. I do that all the time to avoid dealing with emotions. But there's a sort of tension that's coming out here, I think, that Dumas is intentionally doing, where all of the physical evidence in front of Dante is leading him to believe that, or leading one to believe that it could be true. There's no contrary evidence. In fact, everything is leading more towards, hey, this might be a real thing. But then he's counterbalancing that with the kind of psychological dimension that Dante is doing. That's a pendulum that Dumas is moving back and forth for suspense and to keep the audience on tenterhooks. In fact, not that I'm writing anything significant to the degree of the Count of Monte Cristo, but that's an interesting little device that I think I might try to employ in my own writing moving forward. The idea that the physical world or the physical sensations differ from that of what we tell ourselves. It builds an interesting psychological dimension and a suspense and tension in our readers. So the things we learn here on the show, or the things I learn here on the show, and the things you experience me learning on the show, that's what this podcast is all about. I told you I was losing my mind. I think I'm going to end my recording session there today because, boy, oh boy, I don't want this to descend into further madness by the end of this chapter. So, I will say we are still in spooky season here, and since we are halfway through the chapter, I'm not going to go into the full Patreon, but I am going to say there is a little wager I have with you all out there. I have released the Telltale Heart on the Patreon as a bonus episode for spooky season, and the wager with you all is if I get 5 new ratings and reviews on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, etc., I will do one further recording of Premature Burial by Edgar Allan Poe to release on Halloween. So if you are interested in those bonus episodes, you can always access them over at patreon.com/gruntworkpod. If you're interested in wanting more things like Edgar Allan Poe's, like those readings of Edgar Allan Poe, go rate, go review if you haven't done that already, and encourage others to do so that we can continue to build out our bonus episode library with fun little episodes like that. Okay, so we are halfway through chapter 24, so join me here tomorrow for the second half, the beginning of the second half, the beginning of the end, the beginning of the middle. It's definitely just the middle. Oh my God, I told you I'm losing my mind. I'm going to end it. Okay, goodbye. The Countdown of Monte Cristo is part of the Gruntwork Podcast Network. This show is produced, edited, and hosted by Landon Solano. The original text of The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. Theme song by Magic Solo. If you want to support the show and others like it, visit patreon.com/gruntworkpod. Thank you for listening. See you tomorrow.